for stopping by. I have a card to share with you today. So I'm going to start off with the cardstock that I have used. I have the Tailored Expressions Red Pepper, Candy Corn, Parsley, Cookie Monster, and for the yellow I have Concord and Ninth Buttercup. Now I'm going to start off cutting with dies. So the die that I'm using is from My Favorite Things. It's called the Rainbow Whimsy. Unfortunately, they don't make it anymore, but maybe you can talk them into bringing it out of retirement. Sometimes they do those vault releases. But there's other companies that have rainbow dies. I know Simon Says Stamp has one. Honeybee has some. I'll be sure to add those in the links in case you are interested in purchasing one of those. I am using the Altenew mini die cutting machine. I find that it does not dent the paper like the big machine does. What I'm doing now is I am taking one of my sticky sheets, and it's a fresh one because I have many. And I'm just going to take the little rainbows that I cut out in the various colors, and I'm going to build my rainbows so that I could use the spare parts to create dimension on my card. So I'm going to take each of the coordinating rainbow arches, and I'm just going to build my rainbow onto my sticky sheet. Now this orange one, this candy corn one, did not cut all the way through, but I'm just going to use my craft knife to help it along, and I'm just going to finish cutting it out. So I'm going to do this for all of them. Now I have all of my rainbows made, then I know everything that's left could be used to build dimension under each rainbow. I am using the same yellow to cut out a sun from the Lawn Fawn Spring Showers die set. I believe they still have it available because it's like a staple. It's got this cute little sun with the stitched lines on it, and it's got a little cube. I'm sorry, it's got a little cloud, not a cube. Okay, so I have this die that I've cut out with the Simon Says Stamp brushed thanks. I've used this quite a bit in my card making, so it's one of my favorite thanks that I have in my stash. So I'm using the Miss T ruler, the little T-square ruler that is available in my store, and I'm just going to line it up. I just basically lined it up, and then I counted the squares to see where it would be centered. Now, as I'm making multiples, I'm learning that I could use this T-square in various ways. So I figured out where I need to put my thanks, and I used my T-square and I put it inside of the Misty. I've lined up the edge of my cardstock. I did use a stitched rectangle to cut out my pattern paper, and it's the Simon Says Stamp stitched rectangles. And I figured out where the thanks needed to go, and using the grid lines, I've lined it all up. And by using the bar magnet that comes with your Misty, you could hold it all in place inside the base of your Misty. I simply just took the foam insert out, and then that way everything fits snug in there. And I'm just eyeballing where the rainbow needs to be. So the red are the spare pieces, and so this way I could use those spare pieces that are left over to build dimension. Now this video is going to jump around because I didn't exactly film everything in the right order. So you might see the pattern paper be a little bit different on each one, but I am making 4 cards. Now for the sun, I didn't cut out a full sun because I know I'm going to tuck it behind, and I'm just going to use the die to cut the sun so that I don't have to tuck it behind anything. I can just butt it up right against that rainbow. So I'm using my Nuvo glue. I really like this glue. It's kind of really fabulous. So I'm just adhering that down, and I'm just going to hold it down with the magnet so all those loose little pieces don't flop up. Now I've added dimension to my rainbow, and I'm just going to add the top layer of my rainbow. So I'm just piecing it all together, and then this way I know everything will fit because I've added the dimension underneath. And the reason why I did it this way by setting aside my die cuts is because I had tried to do it without, and I just confused the heck out of myself, and then I used the wrong arch in the wrong spot, and then I was missing an arch. And so by doing it this way, I know that I have my full rainbow on my sticky mat set aside. Now I also like to add my multiple layers of the thanks die while on the card. It's a lot easier than trying to hold the die cut between my fingers and making sure everything's lined up. So by putting the first one on my pattern paper, and then I could build up from there, I could move it around easily because the one on the pattern paper is not going to move, and I can just use my craft pick to move the die around until I know it's completely lined up. And then I'll let that one rest while it's drying, and then I'll move on to adding my cloud. Now the cloud I cut out using Simon Says Stamp white glitter cardstock, and I'm not adding any dimension because it's going to go on top of the rainbow, and that has multiple layers underneath. I'm just going to add a little piece of foam off to the side so that the part that hangs off will have a little bit of support underneath. So I'm trying to figure out where I want to put it. And I do want to put some little drops underneath, so I want it to be a little bit higher. So I'm just going to pull apart the backing, and I'm just going to line it up. And I didn't want to put adhesive on the back of it because I didn't want it to slide around and then get glue where I don't want it. So I figured I'll just lift up the edge once I know where it's at and just put some glue right underneath it. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the next layer. Okay, so now I'm going to add my little drops, and I'm using my Studio Katia Clear Drops Mix number 2. And yes, I did go through and I separated all of them because I hate digging through each container looking for the small little bitty one, so I just sorted them out. Now I have most of my card put together, and I feel like the sun needs something, so I take out my clear Wink Estella, and I'm just going to add a little bit of shimmer to my little sun. Now I added it to the thanks, but I ended up going back and I cut it out of the same white glitter cardstock, and then I just glue it on. I don't remember if I show it or not. Okay, so for the inside of the card, I'm using a piece of my sticky mat that I cut down from a previous video. I just cut it down, and I'm just going to line it up and use that as a guide to line up my stamp. So I'm just going to count the number of squares on either side of the sentiment, and I know it will be lined up. And the reason why I'm doing it this way instead of directly onto the card base is because I didn't notice when I put my cards together that some were top folding and some were side folding. So in order to eliminate the hassle of having to move the stamp around, I'm just going to stamp on a layering piece and just add it onto my card. And so I just used it in my little mini Misty, and then that way I could just stamp several at a time. And once that's done, I'm going to show you how I used my T-square ruler to add it to the inside of my card. Now, I have always had a problem cutting my cardstock completely square, but I've been buying the layering cardstock from Tailored Expression, and they cut it straight, so I'm able to line things up pretty straight. So I'm going to use my T-square ruler, and I know that the cardstock, it's a layering one, so it's 4 by 5 1/4. So I know I need 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So I'm just using the 1/8 mark, grid mark on my ruler, and I'm just going to line it up, and it lines it up perfectly onto my card base. And I did the same thing with the top of it. Now, I made this other one that has the word smile, and it's from Fawn, and the inside sentiment of that one has, I believe it's Altenew kind words, and I used Altenew geoframes to add on the sentiment underneath the word smile. Now here you can see where the other die cutting machine put a dent in my rainbow, and this one is completely flat. So I like the fact that the little Altenew die cutting machine will not dent my paper. Thanks so much for sticking with me. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like button. Have a great day.